Does thou seeketh knowledgeth ofeth octopathith accents. Hannah sure does have one. Now, personally, I like her accent. I'm not sure if it's actually proper Old English or not, but there's a charm to it, I feel. Anyway, there's more to her character than just the accent. She's calm, tough, strict yet has the best intentions, mature, and best of all, oblivious. Despite everything she has going for her, a lot of stuff tends to fly over her head. Of course, that just makes her more enjoyable as a character. That being said, how does she fare as a combatant? If I had to say in a single word, I'd say she's fantastic. Hannah comes bustling in with the Hunter job. The Hunter job comes with a plethora of playstyle options for Hannah to take advantage of. One of the most notable skills from the Hunter job is the leg hold trap, which delays the actions of a foe. This can allow Hannah to take on a supportive role with other secondary jobs. The Hunter job also comes with a good amount of bow attacks that can either be used for breaking multiple foes or dealing a good chunk of damage. Something worth noting is that Hannah has the highest attack out of 6 of the other 7 party members. She only ties with Ulbrich with the highest attack stat, but that's still great on its own, as that first place medal is shared between the both of them, which is why it might be tricky to recommend using her as a spellcaster. The last skill the Hunter job comes with is Thunderbird, which is just lightning magic. You can always give Hannah gear that raises her magical attack so that she can make use of this skill, but worst comes to worst, you can use it for breaking foes. There's nothing wrong with either approach, but I find that it's better to go with physical attack over magical just because her physical attack is so high. Beyond that, Hannah also has 2 talents. Hannah's talents come in the form of Provoke and Capture. Provoke essentially allows Hannah to challenge any NPC without a level barrier, yet there's a catch. You can only use whatever monsters you've captured to attack, as well as a few items here or there, but nothing more. No standard attacks, no skills, zilch. If you happen to lose the battle, you'll end up sacrificing some reputation in the process. It doesn't matter if you lose in battle or retreat, if you cannot defeat your opponent, that's game. That being said, battles will get significantly easier as the Traveler levels up over the course of the game. Of course, if you don't have any quality monsters, then it's just going to be an uphill battle anyway. Monsters can be captured during battles. For the most part, there isn't a limit on what you're allowed to capture, but the ones you can't capture will tell you up front instead of leaving it up to chance by exclaiming the word untamable. Usually this will be a boss or a humanoid, but not much beyond that. The types of monsters found will depend on the area you currently find yourself in. Early game areas will have weaker enemies, while later game areas will have stronger monsters, and so on. However, capturing in general won't be that easy if you aren't prepared on how to efficiently do so. Every enemy will start with a capture rate, and depending on some circumstances during battle, it can increase. For example, lowering the HP of the foe and using boosts will make it easier to capture. Likewise, if the foe has a status ailment, has all of its weaknesses exposed, or is broken, the rate will also increase significantly. However, you could easily overshoot the amount of damage dealt and end up slaying the foe instead. That's why you can use Mercy Strike from the Hunter job. Mercy Strike will deal damage to the foe with a bow, but will never kill the foe in question. The move can leave enemies with 1 HP left. As a result, you can make it easier to capture foes. There are also several points worth mentioning. For starters, capturing enemies will not reduce the amount of XP, JP, and money gained from each battle, so there's no consequences to attempting captures. Likewise, you can capture multiple copies of the same enemy, but your barracks are limited, so you'll have to choose wisely what you wish to capture. Each foe captured will have a set amount of uses in battle, and the amount of uses available will always be randomized between certain intervals. Moreover, depending on how strong a foe is, the amount of uses will be significantly less. Each monster captured will also have its own distinct effect. For example, some monsters may heal you or your party, and other monsters might deal damage to foes. The monsters that deal damage to foes will have their own type of move that corresponds to a weapon type. For example, some monsters might have attacks that deal polearm damage, similarly to Lynn's pounce attack. Moreover, it's not limited to just weaponry. Capturable enemies can also deal magic damage. Likewise, some monsters might also have additional effects tied to their attacks, so be on the lookout when attempting to capture foes. And that includes Cades. Yes, you can capture Cades. In any case, it's very recommended to run Mercy Strike when trying to capture enemies. However, Mercy Strike won't be useful anywhere else. Thankfully, the Hunter job has a lot going for it. The Hunter job is rather interesting to start with since she comes equipped with axes and bows, and if learned, lightning magic. As a result, she can combine her job with other multi-weapon wielding jobs for fantastic weapon versatility. I personally find the extra amount of weapon variety to be more supportive than offensive, as it gives the player more coverage for breaking. In that regard, you could probably go with the Thief job if you're looking to make Hannah a support unit. In my last Octopath video, I went over Therion with the Thief-Hunter combination as it has a fantastic amount of support capabilities with Leg Hold Trap and moves such as Shackle Foe and Armor Corrosive that lowers the enemy's stats for an indefinite amount of time. That also applies here as well. Hannah with the Thief job will have a total of 6 weapon types at her disposal. However, what I neglected to mention last time was the Double Axe. The Double Axe is a weapon that is effectively 2 attacks for the price of 1 and is ridiculously good for breaking foes. However, the difference between Therion and Hannah in this case is that Hannah has a larger attack stat, so she can ultimately end up dealing a significant amount of damage while acting as a debuff and break bot. However, both can similarly run SP Thief spam to recover SP from running support moves, and since Hannah has a great attack stat, it's all but encouraged at times rather than using a plum. That, along with swords, daggers, and fire magic from the Thief job for breaking makes her a very competent support unit. Likewise, you have the Dancer job. The Dancer job combined with the Hunter job is rather interesting as Hannah can both debuff foes and buff allies with that combination. Say for instance, you delay the foe's actions on the next turn. This can give Hannah a potential of 2 extra turns before the foe can strike, which can allow her to set up her allies. To make sure you also go before your allies, you can buff Hannah with Panther Dance so she's able to outspeed. As far as ally support is concerned, Hunter and Dancer is rather solid. However, when it comes to break support, you only gain daggers and dark magic as opposed to the Thief's job's swords, daggers, and fire magic. It's still good overlap since it's 5 effects, but if you want her as a break bot first and foremost, Thief is the way to go. However, if you're simply looking for a way to run Dancer effectively, you can easily use Leg Hold Trap and Dance Tactics for setting up buffs in a much more efficient way. On a different note, we have the Warrior job. As previously mentioned, Hannah has the highest attack stat in the game, which is also tied with Aubrey. As a result, she can go full on offense if she so wishes. The Warrior job comes with swords and polearms, neither of which overlap with the Hunter's base weapons. However, the Warrior class does not come with any sort of magic benefits, so Hannah's Thunderbird skill will really act as a means of break support. However, that's not an issue whatsoever as her damage output will more than make up for it. That's also on top of the additional 5% physical attack bonus she gets from equipping the job. That can complement really well with her bow skills as they'll deal even more damage as a result. However, you'll find that the only weapon at her disposal that lacks as much firepower as swords, polearms, and bows is her axe, as there aren't any skills that are dedicated to axe damage. That's where the Apothecary job might come in handy. The Apothecary job is also great for Hannah. The Apothecary job will only grant Hannah 4 break options, one coming from ice magic, as there's an overlap with axes. Despite that, the job is rather complementary to Hannah's base job. While the Warrior job provides more break variety as well as physical attack from the job, the Apothecary job grants additional critical and allows Hannah to pursue both offense and support. Offensively, Warrior will be stronger, but because of the move Amputation as well as the Last Stand, Hannah can dish out loads of damage with axes, which she currently lacks with the Hunter job. Meanwhile, for support, you have the Apothecary's ally support skills, those being First Aid, Rehabilitate, Vivify, and Doter's Charity. First Aid is a cheap healing spell that targets a single ally. For what it's worth, it does heal quite a bit. Then there's Rehabilitate, which cures status ailments and prevents further ones from occurring for an indefinite amount of time. Finally, there's Vivify, which revives a traveler, and Doter's Charity, which allows a traveler to use an item on every party member for 3 turns. If you're worried about getting the most out of Doter's Charity, you can always use the Leg Hold Trap to delay the foe's actions and then set up to maximize the amount of times it gets used effectively. Likewise for support, Hannah still has access to Double Axe, so she can still put in work with breaking despite how limited it is for her. It's not a bad option overall as it has a healthy mix between offense and support. The same can somewhat be said about the Merchant job. The Merchant job also has an overlap in weaponry with bows, but it makes up for it with wind magic as well as with its supportive move, Donate BP. In the case of support, one can easily use Leg Hold Trap and then follow it up with Donate BP on the next turn. This allows Hannah to safely set up Donate BP so long as she doesn't go last in the party. You can always run a Dancer in your party and give her Panther Dance if you're concerned about her going before another Traveler. Thankfully, you can always dictate who goes next thanks to the turn order at the top of the screen during battles. As far as offenses go, beyond the physical attack buff she gets from the Merchant class, all of her damaging skills are magic based, not including hired help. You could always give her the Rune Hatchet and run her offensively with wind and lightning magic if you're concerned about dealing damage, but that's about it beyond normal attacks. Even so, it's still a decent option since she has access to 5 weapon types, but keep in mind that Hannah would be more than relegated to support rather than offense with the Merchant class. And how can I end the job discussion without bringing up the War Master? Remember the thing I kept bringing up about Hannah? You know, that she has the highest attack in the game? Yeah, that. It's rather self-explanatory. Big attack with big damage class equals a lot of damage. Hannah is able to equip every weapon in the game aside from magic, and since her base job doesn't overlap with anything in the War Master job, she can still run other skills that help her perform. The only other noteworthy thing about War Master Hannah is that her critical rate is rather decent, so she can end up doing more damage in the long term. Just make sure to equip Surpassing Power. Of course, that's if you're running Hannah as a War Master. The support skills that she and every other traveler equips will be wholly dependent on her secondary job. In the case of the War Master, Hannah can equip Surpassing Power from the Warrior job, which raises the cap of damage dealing from 9,999 to 99,999, as well as Fortitude and Physical Prowess for more overall attack. If you're feeling extra cheeky, you can also give her Stronger Strikes with the War Master job. Stronger Strikes will give additional attack if you hit a foe's weakness, and if the foe is broken, the damage dealt will double. Additional offense skills can also include BP Eater and Eye for an Eye. BP Eater simply increases the damage dealt by moves that are boosted by 50%. It's rather decent all things considered. Meanwhile, Eye for an Eye allows Traveler to potentially counterattack if hit with a physical move. For support purposes, there are a lot more options at your disposal. For instance, if you're running Hannah as a break bot, you can give her Second Serving. Second Serving gives the Traveler a 50% chance of attacking an additional time with a standard attack. Combine that with the Double Axe and you can easily attack 9 times in a single turn. Of course, you can also give Hannah the Patience skill, which will potentially allow her to act again at the end of the turn. This skill can be used both supportively and offensively, since the extra turn is rather universal in its usage. Beyond that, there are also some fairly standard skills with mixed potential, such as Boost Star, Incidental Attack, and SP Saver. Boost Start simply allows the Traveler to start a battle with 2 BP instead of 1. This can be rather nice for setting up fast breaks or support. Incidental Attack allows the Traveler to make a standard attack if they're using a non-damaging move. For example, if Hannah uses Leg Hold Trap, she also has a chance at dealing damage with one of her equipped weapons. And SP Saver is also fairly standard. It cuts the cost of moves that cost SP in half. You can use it for Divine skills since those cost 50 SP a pop, as well as other SP costly moves. You could also use this for support purposes to delay having to give up an action to recover. There's a lot you can do with Hannah. Hannah is blessed with having the Hunter job as a base, as well as a good physical attack stat that can allow her to branch out to multiple types of jobs, similarly to Therion. If you need a specific niche to fill out on your team, Hannah can fill it out with no problem whatsoever. I hope that this guide provided insight into Hannah as well as any help along the way. If there's anything else you would like me to cover on the next Traveler, feel free to let me know in the comment section. Likewise, if there's a Traveler you want to see covered next, feel free to tell me as well. Until then, do the typical stuff. Subscribe, like, ring the bell, and I'll see you later.